The picture I used today for the Instagram and for the social feed was the holes in a violin. What a beautiful thing to have these carvings in the violin. You would think that they're just there for design, but they're not. They're there because they have a specific purpose and they do a certain thing. And the precision of it and the beauty of it and the certainty of it is very important. I thought to myself, if I were to create a violin, would I try to do something different? Would I try to poke holes all through it? Would it have the same resonance? Would it have the same power? Would it have the same thing? And I realized shortly, just quickly in that thought process, it's not going to happen. It's not going to be successful that way because there's certainty. There's certain things that must be done in the violin, the work in the violin. Another thing is I have this arrow. This is a cool little arrow. Bought it someplace. It's not one of the real arrows, but I bought it because I like arrows, because arrows are designed to hit the target. And if they're designed to hit the target, they're going to hit the target because someone is precise and certain in everything they do to create it. Now, the thing that about the arrow, if you look at that thing about the arrow, is that it has such a straight line. It has to be very certain. Everything has to be exact. And in this, in order for it to hit the target, you need to trust that it's going to hit the target. It's going to hit the target because it's straight. Everything's in line. There's a certain, that there's a certain kind of feather that they use for that. And I wish I remembered it when I was studying. But everything is very certain. Nothing is left to chance, and nothing is left to luck, and nothing is even left to hope, or everything's brought to a place of certainty. And I want to talk to you about being certain and doing certain things at a certain time on a certain day, at a certain moment in a certain way. And it's important that you discover that the key to success is doing things in a certain way. And I read that again. I was reading a book this week as I was in Tulsa. It was written and published in 1910. I love going to the old school success teaching and success coaches. And this coach said something, this teacher said something. They said, success is based upon, the key to success is based upon doing things in a certain way. Now that's important because you have to do things. I love how they say things in a certain way. Then I remembered, I thought I heard that before somewhere, and it's actually in the Barrier Buster Abouts. And I found it again, and it's by Earl Nightingale. He said the same thing. Let's see if I can read it for you real quick. And this is really the basis of what the whole Barrier Buster process and program is for, is to get you to do certain things in a certain way to get the kind of achievement and success you want. And this is what Earl Nightingale said: a major key to success is to do certain things in a certain way every day that will lead you to the goal that you are striving to achieve. Now, this is Earl Nightingale. He wasn't in 1910, but this mindset was as early as 1910. If you want to have success, if you want to achieve, you have to do things in a certain way. Do things in a certain way. Now, that means you can't just make it up all the time. Now, if you're in the experimental or the innovative stage, or you're in this time and the place where you're just kind of bringing things and you're trying to find out what that certain way is that's going to bring success, then of course you're going to try different things. You're going to do certain things. I'm writing a book right now. I'm on my last chapter. I was supposed to be done this weekend. Didn't get a chance to finish it. I'm on my last chapter. Please agree that we're going to have it done this week. So I want you to know that there are certain things that must be done in a certain way in order for you to have achievement, in order for you to succeed. If you don't do it in a certain way, you will not achieve, you will not be successful, you will not overcome. And it's that certainty, that certain way. I looked at the word certain. It has so many different words that are associated to it. And I know that we often think, well, there's a lot of ways to do things. Well, there's not a lot of ways to do things. There's a lot of ways to get different results. But you may not get to the same summit if you want to. There's not a lot of ways to get to the same place. And so there may be some innovations, there may be some adjustments that you have to do for your personality, for your skill set, for your talent. There may be some adjustments to get there, but the realization is, if you want to work out, if you're going to get fit, if you're going to get muscles, there's a certain way to do it. You can make up ways, but there's a certain way. You have to have some form of resistance, whether it's your body resistance, whether it's whether it's band resistance, whether it's weights, little free weights or a universal machine, you have to add some resistance in order to build the pressure, enough pressure in order to burst the muscle, the capillaries, in order to open up your muscles to rebuild themselves again. Damaged muscles to rebuild themselves is strange, isn't it? But you have to be able to do that. And there's a certain way. There's a certain way to do it. Now you can choose what your way, whether it's Pilates or whether it's whatever it may be. You have to choose your way that you're going to put the pressure on you in order to do that. That's a certain way. There are only there's a lot of different methods, but there's only one certain way, and you have to find out what that certain way is. What is that way to be a good swimmer? What is that way to be a successful person? What is that way to be? What is that certain way? So you have to find the certainty of it, and then when you find the certainty of it, then you can do it each and every time. And if you don't do it every time, and you're not successful at doing it every time, then you'll never have the ability to scale it up. I really like working out. I like working out a lot. I like working out because to me, it's very much associated to the success in my mind, success in my body, success in my spirit, my emotions. Success is all tied into my workout. And so I did that on purpose. I talked to you a few weeks ago about just stacking things on purpose and bringing that what you don't like into that what you do like, and you create a new dynamic of success. And I want to just encourage you to go back and listen to that if you can, but you have to find a certain way. If you want to have a great marriage, there's a certain way to do it. If you want to have, raise great children, there's a certain way. And if you find that certain way and you do that certain way consistently every single time, you will discover. Now, of course, every child's different, so you don't raise them all the same, but there's certain ways, there's certain things, certainty that must be achieved. And for instance, I went through a restaurant this week, and when I went to this restaurant, it's a chain restaurant, and the way that they do it in this restaurant is not the way that they do it in what I would say most of the restaurants, which I realized that they don't have the certain way, which makes me wonder if I want to go back to that place as a customer, because they are not doing it in the certain way that created the success. So I'm a little concerned because they have added their own way, which takes away from the experience. Are they still serving what they're serving? They're still serving burgers. They're still serving whatever they serve. But the fact is they're not doing it in a certain way, which makes me leery of going back to that one. So you can have it in different locations, but the certain way is the most important, because the people who come back, they come back because of the certain way. They come back because of the certain way you treat them, the certain way they feel, the certain kind of customer service or certain kind of food they get. And if you break away from a certain way, if you establish it as a bad experience on your first way and they know that that's what they're going to get, then that's the certain way. But if you give them good experiences and they know that good things are going to come, every single time they come, they have a consistency of an arrow, or they have a consistency of a violin. The beauty of the violin comes from the consistency of its make, of its design. So if they know that it's designed to be kind of rough, then they'll come back to that. I remember going to this barbecue place years ago in the Bellevue, Washington area, and the gentleman there, he was just South, and he wanted you to know he was South, but he was very enjoyable. But he was a little strong, a little rough. And so, but we connected right away because I like rough. I like people who are going to tell me just right up front. I don't want anybody just kind of beating around the bush. I want you to talk to me, tell me straight. All right. So we had a good talk and it was fun. And he gave me some very, very hot sauce that he didn't think I could handle. I handled it. That's right. I handled my hot sauce. And it was fun. And we had a good time. And we went back and forth and bantered. And I like that kind of thing. Well, that is not something for everyone, but that's his certain way. Do you know that his certain way had people lining up down the road because he had a very certain way, very personal. He came to every table, talked to everyone, found out where they came from, put a little pin on the board if he found a place that someone came there and had never, and they were from someplace and he didn't have that on board. He put that pin on the board, and it was the certainty of the feeling, of the emotion, of I feel like I'm in the South right now. I feel like I'm eating very Southern food, some very hot. It gave a certainty that was contrary to what you could get in the Bellevue area, which I think created such a energy for him, because he just did what he does, and he did it with a specific way, a certain way, every single time. And he brought what he did at home down south up to the Bellevue area, and he rocked it. And I want you to know, it's not that you conform, it's that you do your certainty, and you're certain of your certainty. You're certain of your thing. You're certain of who you are and what you do. And when you know you're certain of it, it should be productive. It should be something that brings increase, and it causes people to feel like, wow, I like this. I need more of this. Let me have some of that. So hopefully this is encouraging to you. I'm all excited. Let's go into this. It says here, it says, uncertain, to be certain is to be free from doubt, from reservation, to be confident, to be sure. Another, if we drop down a little bit further, says to be fixed on something, to agree upon. And so that's what you have to do. You have to make agreements with what your style is. You have to make agreements with what your process is. You have to make agreements with what your skill sets are. You have to agree upon some things, get fixed on them, know that this is who you are, and be true to yourself. If you are a person, if you're a person who is just, I'm just trying to find the right analogy. I saw Cosmopolitan. I saw a woman's magazine when I was in California. I didn't see it itself, but I saw this extra, I think, or some kind of, I was working out and somebody was making a big deal of it. And they had this lady from the United States, and it was a different kind of model. I think she was, plus size model. And the people are just like some people are for it, some people are not for it, but I love her response. She's like, this is me. And if they want to put me up on this magazine, this is what I'm going to do. So yeah, she's certain about it. She fixed on it. She's not going to try to go work out to try to change what she does. This is her thing. And so I think whatever your certainty is, it will work if you're certain of it, if you're fixed in it. If you're doubting and if you're comparing yourself with what everyone else is certain about and what everyone else is doing, and you're not certain about it, then you can't do something in a certain way every single time and get the kind of result you want. You have to do it every single day. So I want to just start to close off with this idea. There's programs like Barrier Buster or whatever success program or whatever marketing program. There's programs. That program is proven to work because of its certainty. The people who do it and design it and create it, they create it with a certain thing in mind, a certain objective in mind, and they create it with certainty. Workout videos, whatever it may be, or eating plans. There's a certain way. There's a certain way it works, and there's a certain way it doesn't work. And so you need to know that you are certain in what you're doing, and that is a fixed plan, a fixed idea. But first of all, you're persuaded of its influence. You're persuaded of its ability to work. If you're not persuaded of its ability to work, then you won't be certain as you're doing it. And if you're not certain as you're doing it, you're going to start to change the certainty out of it. And you're going to say, well, let's try this and let's try this. And you're going to make it an experiment. And then when you get to the end of it, you're not going to enjoy the result because you're not doing it their certain way. My suggestion is always do it the certain way. And if you find that there's results that you can get better after doing it the certain way, then add your kind of innovation to the certain way. Don't change the system before you know how the system works. Don't actually go into a new job, a new position, a new opportunity. Go, I know how to do this because this is what we're going to do. Let me tell you about it. And you don't know what that company has done to get to where they are. And you have brought your own certainty from a different circumstance, but you need to actually find out what are they certain about and what are they not certain about, and figure out these parameters. If you figure out the parameters that they're not certain about and you build certainty there, a certain way of doing things there, create success in that realm, then they will see the success there and they'll say, what else do you have to say about the whole system? This is where people don't achieve, because they go in and they try to change the whole system based upon one thing that they're certain about, not knowing whether or not that certainty can work in that environment. So you go in, you find the parameters that are working, you find the parameters that are not working, you work the system that is working, you don't change it, and you go in and you then apply to the uncertain parameters, uncertain places, you apply your certainty, the things you're fixed on, the things that you know will work. And when you do so, it will create such an energy for you in that company, in that business, in that place, in that sphere of influence, that it will literally begin to explode, because people will ask you to bring input instead of you bringing input when it's not asked. That's just a little free one right there. Another thing is, there's there's first of all that persuasion. You have to be persuaded. Number one, be persuaded that it's the right thing to get you there, even though you're going to have to make some adjustments along the way. You may have to make some adjustments after but wait until you hit your wall. If you are starting a new eating plan and you're starting a new workout, and I always pick those things because they're easy to reference. But it could be you're starting a new job, like we talked about a moment, or you're starting a new relationship. Just go in with an understanding of what works, what's working. If I tell lots of jokes and it's working, I'm going to stick with this until I see them not laughing. At the moment I hit the wall and they're not laughing, I've got to now figure out some intelligent things to say. And then we'll talk intelligent until I see them hit the wall. And then we're going to talk about jokes again. And then so we keep going. And we don't change until we hit the walls. And then we find a pattern of certainty. Okay, this too much of this, a little bit of this, a little of this. And then you find that certain way that it's going to be successful. And then you're able to keep that pattern. Once you have that pattern, you're persuaded of it, then you need to know that you need to be consistent with it. Consistency, doing the same things every day, the same way, all the time, every single boring night. That's the realization. Success is a boring strategy. It is not an enthusiastic, exciting strategy. You bring the enthusiasm, you bring the joy to it, you bring the hope to it, you bring the happy to it. But the fact is you're going to do something every single day, the same way every day, a certain way every day. And it's going to get on your nerves that you have to do this same thing every day until you become a person who realizes the only way success happens is if I do the same thing every day. I learned the hard way. I was bored. I needed to change all the time. And that change all the time disrupted my success because I was never able to get a footing that I was certain on to where I could live and grow and be who I wanted to be and who I'm becoming even still to this day. So let's just go ahead and make sure that we are consistent. Do the same things every day. Even if you choose, I talked about that, the 96% habit. Even if you choose intentionally to do the same thing every day, you're building the habit to be successful. Do it, make it work, and you will actually be very excited about your results. Consistency. The most of us that are not achieving what we want is because we're not consistently doing it. If it works once, write it down. Write it down. It's amazing how many people I work with, they do something and it works once. And then they go, what are we going to do now? That worked, right? Do it again. Exactly that same way. Do it again until it doesn't work, until it doesn't actually produce at the level you want. Then you can change it. Stop changing it just because you get bored. Change it because it no longer works. And then if it no longer works, then change it, then modify it, then increase it, then multiply it, whatever you have to do, but don't do it and just get the art of consistency down. The next is persistency. Make sure that you are persisting. If you're going to have something that's certain, you're going to have to push through some boundaries, push through some walls, some things that tell you not to do it. Listen, I want you to be encouraged that you can do this. And these are the keys. These are keys. Certain, be certain about it. Be fully persuaded. Number two, that means being fixed on something. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this thing. Right? Get that goal setting. I'm going to do this thing and I'm going to do it this way. And this is why I'm going to do it. Right? Get all that and that certainty, and then move into this understanding that when you start to break into that certainty, when you start to move into that certainty, you're going to need consistency. You're going to need to keep it going and keep it going and keep it going and keep it going and keep it going.